The holographic projection flickered to life in the United Earth Assembly chamber, casting an eerie blue glow across the faces of humanity's leaders. Ambassador Krell of the Galactic Council stood before them, his three eyes regarding the humans with barely concealed contempt. People of Earth, Krell's voice resonated through the translation matrix, the Galactic Council has deliberated on your petition for membership. We find your species lacking. President Maria Torres rose from her seat, her jaw clenched. Lacking? We've shared our technology, our culture, our resources. What more do you require? Krell's mandibles clicked in what the humans had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive laugh. You are a young species. Volatile. Aggressive. Your history is stained with warfare and conquest. The Council has decided that humanity must remain confined to your solar system for the next 500 standard years. Any vessel crossing the Kuiper Belt will be destroyed without warning. The chamber erupted in protests. General Marcus Webb slammed his fist on the table. You can't imprison an entire species. We have rights. You have what we grant you, Krell interrupted coldly. The Council has positioned enforcement stations at the edge of your system. This is not negotiable. Consider yourselves fortunate we don't sterilize your planet as we did the Carthans when they defied us. The hologram winked out, leaving the assembly in stunned silence. For 3 years, humanity had worked tirelessly to join the galactic community. They had solved hunger, unified their governments, and reached out with nothing but peaceful intentions. And this was their answer, a cage. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of the United Earth Space Agency, stood slowly. They've made a grave miscalculation. What do you mean? Torres asked. They've given us a clear enemy and 500 years to prepare. But I don't think we'll need that long. Elena pulled up a classified file on the main display. Project Exodus has been theoretically complete for 2 years. We never built it because we thought diplomacy would work. The screen showed a massive vessel, dwarfing anything humanity had constructed before. But it wasn't alone. The schematics displayed a fleet of 30 capital ships, each capable of carrying 10,000 souls and enough firepower to level a continent. The Galactic Council thinks we're children playing with rockets, Elena continued, her voice steady and cold. They're about to learn what happens when you corner a species that conquered its own planet through sheer stubbornness. We didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain by accepting cages. General Webb smiled grimly. How long until the first ship is operational? With full industrial mobilization? 18 months. For the full fleet, give me 4 years. President Torres looked around the room at the determined faces of humanity's leaders. The vote was unanimous without a single word being spoken. They would not beg. They would not wait. They would build their fleet, break the blockade, and show the galaxy that humanity bowed to no one. The age of human submission was over before it had truly begun. The lunar shipyards had transformed beyond recognition. Where once stood research stations and mining colonies, now stretched kilometer after kilometer of construction platforms, smelting facilities, and assembly docks. The dark side of the moon had become humanity's forge, hidden from casual observation by the Council's surveillance satellites that orbited Earth. Chief Engineer Robert Kane stood in the command center, watching the holographic displays showing progress on all 30 vessels of the Terran fleet. Sparks flew in silent vacuum as hundreds of thousands of workers in exoskeletons and EVA suits assembled the backbone of humanity's defiance. Hull integrity on the Indomitable is at 93%, his assistant, Lieutenant James Park, reported. The Defiance and Resolute are ready for power core installation. Kane nodded, but his eyes were on the flagship, the Terra's Wrath. She was a beast of a ship, measuring 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with railguns, missile ports, and the prototype quantum disruption cannons that Dr. Rodriguez's team had developed. If the Council wanted to see human aggression, they'd give them a masterpiece. Sir, we have a problem, Park said, his voice tight. Council scouts just changed their patrol pattern. They're sweeping closer to the moon. Kane's stomach tightened. They were only 3 months from completion. If the Council discovered the fleet now, everything would be lost. Activate the camouflage nets. Full electromagnetic silence. Route all energy signatures through the lunar core. Across the construction yards, massive sheets of metamaterial unfurled, blending the shipyards into the lunar landscape. Fusion reactors throttled down to minimal power. 10,000 workers froze in place, waiting. The Council scout ship glided past the moon, its sensors sweeping the surface. In the command center, Kane held his breath. The scout's trajectory would take it within 50 kilometers of the primary dock where the Terra's Wrath sat, barely concealed. Seconds stretched into eternities. Then the scout adjusted course, angling back toward its patrol route. It had seen nothing. Resume construction, Kane ordered, releasing a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Double shifts from now on. We can't risk another close call. As the shipyards roared back to life, a message came through from Earth. Elena Rodriguez appeared on his private channel, her face grave. Robert, I need you to accelerate the timeline. Our intelligence network intercepted Council communications. They're planning something called a compliance inspection in 4 months. If they find the fleet incomplete, they'll slag everything from orbit. 4 months. Elena, we need 6 minimum. Make it work, Robert. Cut corners if you must. We need those ships ready to fight, not perfect. Kane looked out at the growing fleet, at the thousands of workers who believed in this impossible dream. We'll be ready. But Elena, when we launch, there's no going back. This becomes a shooting war. It became a war the moment they caged us, Elena replied coldly. They want to see human aggression. They'll get 1,000 years of it compressed into a single glorious moment. Finish those ships, Robert. Humanity is counting on you. The channel closed, and Kane turned to his team with renewed determination. All departments, this is now a priority alpha scenario. The Terran fleet launches in 4 months. Anyone who says it can't be done can leave now. No one moved. They would build their fleet, and the galaxy would tremble. Counselor Vex of the Galactic Council stood in his private chambers aboard the enforcement station designated Barrier Prime, reviewing routine reports with 3 of his 4 eyes while the 4th studied the distant blue marble of Earth. The humans have been remarkably compliant since the ultimatum, no escape attempts, no protests, nothing but radio silence and what appeared to be resignation. It was too quiet. Lord Vex, his aide Praxis entered, his scales rippling with agitation. We have a defector. A human claiming to have urgent information. Vex's interest piqued. Bring them in. The human who entered was tall, nervous, with the kind of face that suggested he'd spent too many nights without sleep. He introduced himself as Dr. Nathan Cole, former member of the United Earth Space Agency. I can't stay silent anymore, Cole said, his voice shaking. They're planning something terrible. President Torres has gone mad with revenge. She's ordered the militarization of every resource humanity has. We've observed no unusual military activity, Vex replied, though he leaned forward with interest. That's because it's happening on the far side of the moon, Cole pulled out a data chip. I smuggled out these files before they could catch me. They're building weapons. Dangerous ones. I thought we were trying to join your council peacefully, but now they're talking about war. About making you pay for the ultimatum. Vex took the chip and inserted it into his analysis matrix. The data showed plans for enhanced nuclear warheads, primitive plasma weapons, and some laughable attempts at shield technology. Exactly what he'd expect from a caged species lashing out in desperation. This is concerning, Vex said, but hardly a threat to the Council. Their weapons are centuries behind ours. You don't understand, Cole pressed. It's not just weapons. They're building ships. Big ones. I don't know how many or exactly where, but I know they're planning to run your blockade. Let them try, Vex said dismissively. Our enforcement fleet will vaporize anything that crosses the boundary. Still, your loyalty to the greater good is noted, Dr. Cole. We will grant you asylum on the Council worlds. You've done the right thing. After Cole was escorted out, Praxis turned to his master. Should we increase patrols? Investigate the moon more thoroughly? No, Vex decided. Let them build their toys. Let them feel like they have some control. When they inevitably attempt their little rebellion, we'll crush it so thoroughly that they'll spend the next 500 years grateful we let them survive. Besides, our long-range sensors show nothing but standard industrial activity. This defector is likely exaggerating to secure his own escape. What Vex didn't know was that Dr. Nathan Cole didn't exist. The man who'd entered his chamber was Lieutenant Marcus Freeman of Earth Intelligence, pumped full of drugs to fool the Council's biometric scanners and fed carefully crafted disinformation. The data chip contained real plans, for projects that had been obsolete for months. As Freeman was shuttled to a Council processing station, he activated a microscopic transmitter embedded in his tooth. Nightingale to base. The worm is in the apple. They suspect nothing. On the moon, Elena Rodriguez received the confirmation and smiled. Excellent work, Lieutenant. Now we know their entire detection grid, their patrol patterns, and their blind spots. General Webb, adjust fleet deployment accordingly. When we launch, we'll ghost right through their sensors. The Council thought they were hunters. They were about to learn they'd been prey all along. The day humanity chose to bare its teeth began like any other. The Council's enforcement fleet maintained its positions, its sensors detecting nothing but the usual traffic of human orbital stations and industrial platforms. The bureaucrats on Barrier Prime filed their reports, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that beneath the lunar surface, 30 capital ships were powering up their reactors for the first time. All vessels report green across the board, General Webb announced from the bridge of the Terra's Wrath. Around him, the command crew worked with practiced efficiency, years of simulation training coming to life. Admiral Torres, fleet is ready for your orders. President Maria Torres had insisted on commanding the fleet personally. If humanity was going to war with the galaxy, she would lead from the front. She stood at the observation deck, looking at the assembled ships through the massive viewport, each one a testament to human determination. Commence Operation Breakout, she ordered. All ships, launch sequence Alpha. The lunar surface erupted. Massive camouflage nets dissolved as 30 warships rose from hidden docks that had been carved deep into the moon's bedrock. The Terra's Wrath led the formation, flanked by her sister ships, each one carrying 10,000 of Earth's finest soldiers, pilots, and scientists. 300,000 souls committed to a single purpose, freedom. On Barrier Prime, alarms shrieked to life. Counselor Vex. Praxis burst into the command center. We have multiple massive contacts emerging from the lunar surface. 30 capital ships, each reading energy signatures beyond our initial projections. Vex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Impossible. Our scouts would have detected construction of this scale. Those ships how are they that large? Weapons hot, another officer reported. They're targeting our enforcement stations. All ships, intercept course. Vex ordered. We have 40 vessels to their 30. This will be over quickly. But as the Council fleet moved to engage, they discovered their first nasty surprise. The Terran vessels suddenly vanished from sensors, replaced by hundreds of false signatures that scattered across the tactical display like a swarm of angry hornets. What is this? Vex demanded. Some kind of jamming technology, his tactical officer replied. I can't get target locks. I can't, wait, incoming. The Terra's Wrath opened fire, and the galaxy learned that humanity's innovations weren't limited to shipbuilding. Quantum disruption cannons, weapons that literally tore at the fabric of spacetime, lanced out in beams of twisted purple light. The first Council enforcement cruiser they hit simply ceased to exist, atomized so completely that its debris field was measured in molecules. Evasive maneuvers. Vex screamed, but it was too late. The Terran fleet had trained for this moment for 4 years. Every simulation, every drill, every scenario had prepared them to fight enemies with superior technology. They compensated with superior tactics. The human ships fought like a pack of wolves, coordinating with a precision that the Council's mixed-species fleets couldn't match. They used the moon as cover, emerged firing, then ghosted away before return fire could lock on. Railguns hurled depleted uranium slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. Missile pods disgorged smart munitions that hunted in packs. Within 20 minutes, the Council had lost 8 ships. The humans had lost none. Fall back. Vex ordered, his pride shattered. All vessels, retreat to the outer system. Request reinforcements from the Council immediately. As the Council fleet scattered, Admiral Torres allowed herself a grim smile. Pursuit course. Communications, broadcast on all frequencies. Her image appeared on every Council vessel, every station, every relay in the solar system. This is Admiral Maria Torres of the Terran fleet. You came to our home and told us we weren't worthy. You threatened us with extinction. You made us prisoners in our own system. Today, humanity answers your ultimatum. We will not be caged. We will not be judged. We will take our place among the stars, and we will do it over your burning wrecks if necessary. Stand down, or be destroyed. The message echoed across the solar system, and humanity's long war for recognition began. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 200 species filled the grand chamber on the capital world of Zentera, their various forms of agitation creating a cacophony of sound, scent, and electromagnetic signals. High Counselor Thane, an ancient being whose species had founded the Council millennia ago, called for order with a pulse of authoritative psionic energy. Silence. We will address this crisis with the dignity befitting our station. The holographic display at the chamber's center showed the tactical replay of the battle at Earth. Council representatives watched in stunned horror as their enforcement fleet was systematically dismantled by the upstart humans. This is unprecedented, Ambassador Krell hissed, his earlier arrogance replaced by fear. We've never encountered such rapid military development. Their quantum weapons alone represent a technological leap that should have taken them centuries. They were supposed to be primitives. Counselor Vex appeared via holocom from his damaged flagship, now limping toward the outer system. Our intelligence suggested they barely had fusion power. Instead, they unveiled a fleet that outguns half the Council's military. Counselor Mira of the Poloxian Collective raised a tentacle. Perhaps we were too harsh with our ultimatum. The humans claimed they wanted peace, and we responded with threats and imprisonment. Are you suggesting we negotiate? Krell spat. They attacked Council forces. They must be punished, made an example of, or every restricted species in the galaxy will think they can defy us. High Counselor Thane studied the tactical data with ancient eyes. There's something else here. Look at their weapons. Quantum disruption technology. We abandoned that research 8,000 years ago because we deemed it too dangerous. How did they develop it independently in less than 4 years? Maybe they didn't, suggested Admiral Rourke of the Council Defense Forces, a grizzled warrior whose species had enforced Council law for 3,000 years. Maybe they've had outside help. The question is, who would dare arm a restricted species? The implications hung heavy in the chamber. The Council's power rested on technological superiority. If that advantage was eroding, their entire authority structure was at risk. We should deploy the Fourth Fleet, Krell demanded. 500 warships. We'll sterilize Earth and be done with this threat. And if we lose? Thane asked quietly. The Fourth Fleet is our primary enforcement arm. If the humans destroy it, we'll be vulnerable to every resistance group, every rebel faction, every species we've subjugated. The Council would fall within a decade. The chamber fell silent as the reality sank in. They had created this situation through arrogance, and now they faced a dilemma: escalate and risk catastrophic losses, or negotiate and show weakness. There is a third option, Admiral Rourke said. We blockade Earth at a distance, prevent them from accessing resources beyond their system while we study their capabilities. Then we negotiate from a position of strength, offering them limited membership in exchange for their military technology. You want to reward their aggression? Krell objected. I want to survive, Rourke replied bluntly. That fleet destroyed 8 of our ships in 20 minutes. If they've been clever enough to hide that construction from us, what else are they hiding? What other surprises do they have waiting? Back in the Sol system, Admiral Torres received intelligence reports about the Council session from agents who'd been embedded in Council space for years. She turned to Elena Rodriguez, who had joined the fleet aboard the Terra's Wrath. They're scared, Elena said with satisfaction. Good. Fear makes them rational. What's our next move? Torres asked. We press the advantage, General Webb interjected. Their reinforcements will take weeks to arrive. We fortify the Kuiper Belt, establish defensive positions, and show them that any assault on Sol will cost them dearly. Torres nodded, but her expression was troubled. We won the first battle, but this war is far from over. The Council has thousands of ships. We have 30. Eventually, numbers will tell. Then we don't fight a conventional war, Elena said. We showed them we can hurt them. Now we show them we can help them. We offer our technology, selectively, in exchange for recognition. We turn this from a military conflict into a political one. Divide the Council against itself. Fighting and talking simultaneously. Torres smiled. I like it. Let's show them that humans are as dangerous at the negotiating table as we are in battle. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sol, a coded message reached the Terran fleet through a secure quantum channel that shouldn't have existed. When Elena Rodriguez decrypted it, her eyes widened in surprise. Admiral, you need to see this, she called Torres to the communications lab. We've been contacted by the VRNN coalition. Torres frowned. I don't recognize that name. You wouldn't. They're one of 73 species that have been restricted by the Galactic Council over the past 2 millennia. Banned from FTL travel, confined to their home systems, just like us. The message played in translation. The speaker was a VRNN female named Commander Tallis, her crystalline features reflecting determination. Admiral Torres, we have watched your defiance with great interest. For 600 years, my people have lived under the Council's boot, told we were too aggressive to join civilized space. When we see you fight, we see hope. We have a proposal. The message detailed a network of restricted species that had been secretly communicating for centuries, sharing technology and resources under the Council's nose. 53 of them were willing to join humanity in a coordinated rebellion. This changes everything, General Webb said. If we coordinate simultaneous uprisings across the galaxy, the Council won't be able to respond everywhere at once, Torres finished. But can we trust them? This could be a Council trap. Elena pulled up data files. I've been analyzing the quantum signature of their transmission. It's genuine VRNN technology, and it was routed through systems the Council doesn't control. I think this is legitimate. A debate erupted in the command center. Some officers argued for maintaining independence, others for accepting any allies they could get. Torres listened to both sides before making her decision. We meet with them, but carefully. Commander Tallis, we're sending coordinates for a neutral location. Come alone, in a single vessel. Let's talk about what freedom looks like for all of us. 2 weeks later, the meeting took place in a debris field between star systems, far from any Council sensors. 23 species sent representatives, each one carrying centuries of grievances against the Council. They represented billions of beings who had been judged unworthy for various reasons, too warlike, too individualistic, too different from Council norms. Commander Talus spoke for the group. The Council calls us restricted, but we call ourselves the Free Systems Alliance. We've been waiting for a catalyst, someone to prove that the Council can bleed. You've given us that, Admiral Torres. Now we offer you something in return. Holographic displays showed hidden shipyards, weapons caches, and fleets that the Council had no idea existed. The restricted species had been preparing for this moment for generations. We have over 3,000 ships between us, Talus continued. Not as advanced as Council vessels individually, but together, with your quantum weapons and tactical expertise, we can field a force that matches theirs. What do you want in return? Torres asked cautiously. A seat at the table when this is over, Talus replied. A new galactic order where species aren't judged by how well they conform to Council standards, but by their willingness to coexist peacefully. We want what you want, Admiral, the right to determine our own destiny. Torres looked at Elena and Webb, seeing her own thoughts reflected in their faces. This was bigger than Earth now. This was a chance to reshape the galaxy itself. We accept your alliance, Torres said, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Talus touched it with her crystalline appendage, sealing a pact that would terrify the Galactic Council. As the representatives returned to their ships, Elena pulled Torres aside. You realize we just started a galactic civil war? No, Torres corrected. The Council started it 2,000 years ago when they decided they had the right to cage species that didn't meet their standards. We're just finishing it. Across the galaxy, in 73 star systems, restricted species began activating hidden fleets, preparing for a coordinated strike that would shake the Council to its foundations. The Terran fleet had become the spark that ignited a revolution spanning thousands of light years. The Council had feared human aggression. They were about to learn that oppression breeds something far more dangerous, unity among the oppressed. The Second Battle of Zentera would be remembered as the day the old galactic order died. 3,000 ships of the Free Systems Alliance emerged from FTL at the edges of the Council capital system, while the Terran fleet, now expanded to 50 vessels through rapid construction, appeared near the inner planets. High Counselor Thane watched the tactical display with something approaching resignation. So it ends, he said quietly. Around him, the Grand Chamber was in pandemonium. Council members screamed for immediate counterstrikes, for negotiations, for evacuation. Admiral Rourke's face appeared on the main display. High Counselor, we cannot win this battle. They outnumber us 3-1, and the human quantum weapons give them a decisive advantage. I'm requesting permission to stand down the defense fleet before we lose everything. Denied. Counselor Krell shrieked. We are the Galactic Council. We do not surrender to primitives and rebels. Then you doom billions to death for your pride, Rourke replied coldly. He switched channels, broadcasting directly to Admiral Torres. Admiral, this is Admiral Rourke of the Council Defense Forces. I'm willing to discuss terms if you guarantee the safety of non-combatants. Torres had been prepared for a battle, not a surrender. She glanced at Elena, who nodded. This was the moment they'd been working toward. All Free Systems vessels, hold fire, Torres ordered. Admiral Rourke, we accept your offer. We have no desire to destroy the Council, only to reform it. Our terms are as follows: immediate removal of all restrictions on member species development and travel, the dissolution of the current Council structure and formation of a truly representative galactic senate where each species has equal voice, and the establishment of a mutual defense pact that protects all species from external threats, not internal dissent. In the Grand Chamber, Krell began objecting, but Thane silenced him with a gesture. The ancient counselor accessed his private files, pulling up records that went back millennia, records of species the Council had destroyed for refusing to submit, of technological suppression, of countless abuses justified by claims of maintaining order. We have become what we once fought against, Thane said, speaking to the full Council. 2,000 years ago, the founding species created this Council to protect younger civilizations from exploitation. Now we are the exploiters. Perhaps these humans, with their passion for freedom, can remind us what we've forgotten. He opened a channel to Torres. Admiral, I am High Counselor Thane. I've led this council for 300 years, and in that time, I've watched us grow corrupt and authoritarian. I support your terms, with one addition. I request that Earth provides advisors to help restructure our government. We need fresh perspectives unburdened by centuries of political calcification. You're giving them everything. Krell protested. We should survive, Thane interrupted. Look at the display, Krell. We've already lost. The only question is whether we lose with grace and evolve, or lose everything including our lives. I choose evolution. One by one, council members signaled their acceptance. Some, like Krell, did so with obvious hatred, already plotting future revenge. Others, like Thane, seemed genuinely relieved that the burden of empire was finally being lifted. The Treaty of Zentera was signed 3 days later aboard the Terra's Wrath. 73 restricted species were granted full membership in what would become the Galactic Senate. The Council's enforcement fleets were disbanded, replaced by a mutual defense force commanded by a rotating council of admirals from different species, with Admiral Torres serving the first term. Elena Rodriguez stood with Torres on the observation deck as the fleets dispersed peacefully, each ship carrying the news of freedom back to their home worlds. We did it, Elena said, still hardly believing. We actually changed the galaxy. We did, Torres agreed. But now comes the hard part, making it work. Building a government that represents billions of beings across thousands of light years. There will be conflicts, misunderstandings, maybe even violence as old grudges surface. But they'll be free to work through those problems themselves, Elena replied. Not caged and controlled by species who claimed to know better. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted across every city and station as the news spread. Humanity had gone from caged animals to galactic liberators in less than 5 years. Children who had grown up under the shadow of the Council's ultimatum now faced a future among the stars. In the newly formed Galactic Senate, Admiral Torres delivered humanity's first address to the assembled species. 4 years ago, the Council told us we were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous for the galaxy. They were wrong about our character, but right about one thing: we are dangerous. Dangerous to tyranny. Dangerous to oppression. Dangerous to anyone who thinks they have the right to cage others because they're different. We offer the galaxy not domination, but partnership. Not conquest, but cooperation. And if anyone, Council remnants or external threats, ever again tries to subjugate peaceful species, they'll face the full fury of humanity and our allies. This is our promise and our warning. The age of cages is over. The chamber erupted in affirmation. Clicks, roars, electromagnetic pulses, and psionic waves of agreement from hundreds of species. The Terran fleet had launched to break a blockade. It had ended by breaking chains that had bound the galaxy for 2 millennia. And somewhere in deep space, the first mixed crew ship, humans, Verwinen, and 24 other species working together, jumped to FTL, heading toward the unknown regions beyond Council space. They carried no weapons of war, only tools of exploration. The galaxy had become a very different place. And it was just beginning. The end.